Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Bonnie Rose and it's great to see you here today. We're going to not sing the face of God right now, so the teens can be seated because we're going to do a baby blessing. The blessing family up to the stage and their baby. Yay! And the godparents. Come on up. And if you just want to fill in here in front of the bowl, that would be great. Oh, you have the holy water? Okay. And tell me, am I putting drops in here or am I applying it directly to him? Okay, I'll do that in a minute. Thank you. Okay. So this is Nikolai. Say hi, Nikolai. And this is his mom, Rosalie. And his dad. Whoever wants to come up can come up. Doesn't matter. If they're already up here, come on up. Yeah. Okay. Sure, why not? I just need to be able to get to my props. Okay. There you go. I don't know everybody's name, but I do know Nikolai's name, and I know his parents are Rosalie and John, and then there's Deanna and Jesse and Jodelle, who I did your baby blessing when you were just a tiny little thing. In fact, I think I saw you the day you were born. That was very exciting, too. Didn't I? Yeah, that's right. So we're here just to welcome this beautiful child into our congregation. And we know that children are already blessed. They come into the world blessed, and most certainly Nikolai, is a precious gift of God. But we welcome him here to his blessed state here on earth, and we also welcome him to the community of our hearts. And we acknowledge that we support the blessedness in this entire family. So I have some vows for all of the family, parents, godparents, and whoever else is assembled here today. And I'll prompt you what to say. He wants to go to his godmommy? Okay, good. Okay, that's sweet. All righty. Okay. So will you teach your child that he is unique and wonderful? If so, please say, we will. We will. Thank you. Will you teach him that his life is one with all life? If so, please say, we will. Thank you. Will you teach him to be kind, respectful, loving, and joyful? If so, please say, we will. We will. Good. Will you love him completely and unconditionally as he is? If so, please say, we will. We will. Thank you. Okay, you stay right where you are. You're in a good place. And now this is for all of us because we're Nikolai's people now. We're his community. So for all of us, we're going to take some vows together, if you like. So will you acknowledge that this child is a wonderful being of love? If so, please say, we will. We will. Will you always strive to be kind and supportive to him? If so, please say, we will. We will. I see some of you are starting already by waving at him. It's very cute. Will you always see the best in him and encourage him to honor the best in himself? If so, please say, we will. We will. Great, thank you. So Nikolai's parents have brought us some holy water from the Vatican, and I'm going to add that right now to my blessing bowl. So give me 1 minute here. I'll just go ahead and put a little bit of that in there, and this, yeah, you're okay. You're all right. You're okay. You're good. Just put a few drops in there, and that blesses the water. And the water is the bowl itself has a lot of little things in it. It has various symbols. There's little singing for music, and it has pieces of sea glass and rocks and shells for nature, and it has a little tiny piece of the Berlin Wall in it for peace, and all kinds of great things. So I'm going to need my book for 1 second. And if anybody has a camera, feel free to take pictures if you want. That's more than welcome. And I want to be behind you so you can be in the pictures, okay? All righty. There we go. So, Nikolai, in the name of God and generations before and after us, we welcome you, dear child, to the mystical union of souls on earth. We have awaited you. We rejoice that you are here. And right now, I bless you. Ooh. Nikolai David Peak, I'm sorry. In the name of all that is holy, your name is now made holy through our shared intention of love and support. Yay! He did so great. He did so great. Yeah. We're not quite done yet. I have a couple of things for you and the family. This is a rosary from John of God. It's from Brazil, where there's a very famous healer named John of God that a lot of our practitioners and other church members go and see him. So we have a rosary in there for him or for you. We also have a newcomer's heart for him, because he is a newcomer. Okay, so that's for you, and you are welcome to grab a heart too if you want. And then we have a little book for him, a children's book that has a spiritual message. That's for him as well. And then we have a certificate of his blessing day, and that's for you to frame, put on his nursery wall if you like. Okay? Oh, sure. It's been a pleasure serving you and your family. So in closing, what I'd like to do, if there's any more youth in the house, whether you're a tall youth or a short youth, or would you just come up on the stage so we can affirm your greatness as well, too? Yay! That's great. Thank you. Hi, Liam. Hi there. Good job, you guys. You handled that like pros. That was great. Okay. All right. So if the congregation would please repeat after me. We love you. We love you. We bless you. We bless you. We believe in you. We believe in you. You are the face of God. And before we play, there's one more youth that needs to come up here, because we just did her blessing too. We don't want to leave Natalia out. Natalia, we love you, we bless you, we believe in you too. Yay! That's your friend. Now he's almost a year, and how old is Natalia?
She's a year and a half.
Year and a half. Okay, well you might play together in youth and family sometime. Look at that. There you go. All right. So as we sing together, "You are the face of God," then you all can go back to your seats, and the youth will go to their classroom. And so it is, and so we allow it to be. As we move into that greater place of stillness, to that greater place of knowing, that we leave away the busyness of this season, of all of the to-do lists, of all of the tasks, of all of the getting here, of all of the letting go, and we just allow ourselves to be still and know the I Am presence. Let us breathe in and breathe out into that sacred I Am, which is the name of love, the name of absolute reality, the name of God. And as we inhale and exhale and increase our awareness of the truth of our existence, the truth that we are that I Am presence, let us become so full that we must sing of it. We sing, "I am remembering who I am," for ourselves, so that we may have that divine remembrance. But as we sing, we also remember the truth of the I Am for all beings. And so we begin. I am remembering.
Ever since I can remember, I've been wishing on a star. And every cold December never felt like Christmas in my heart, when the fear and sadness didn't serve me anymore. That's when Spirit opened up the door. And now I give myself the present, 'cause the present is a gift, and the ghost of Christmas past is gone. I already feel the shift, and the ghost of Christmas future isn't scary anymore. Now I know I'm held in the arms of love for sure this Christmas. Christmas. All those things I thought I wanted, they never filled me up. My Christmas Eve was haunted till I finally knew I'd had enough. Gifts of pain and anger, they just don't fit me anymore. Somehow love has opened up the door, and now I give myself the present, 'cause the present is a gift, and the ghost of Christmas past is gone. I already feel the shift, and the ghost of Christmas future isn't scary anymore. Now I know I'm held in the arms of love for sure this Christmas. This Christmas. And even when we think the light is gone, somewhere beyond the storm, the sun is shining on. And when I feel the love, I am free again. I'm free again. And now I give myself the present, 'cause the present is a gift, and the ghost of Christmas past is gone. I already feel the shift, and the ghost of Christmas future isn't scary anymore. Now I know I'm held in the arms of love for sure this Christmas. This Christmas. This Christmas.
Because my talk title was supposed to be Held in the Arms of Love. Maybe you heard Karen say that line in her songs, but her song rather. But just one night when I couldn't sleep, I just was seized by this other idea that wouldn't let me go. So my new talk title is 6 Sassy Mystics Walked into a Bar. Yeah. All right. And in this message, I hope to tell you who they were, what they drank, what they said. And the purpose of this is so that we can take some of this mystical wisdom and apply it to our lives so that we can have the great life of love, where in fact we are held in the arms of love, or perhaps we are the arms of love doing the holding, or perhaps we're both. I would say yes, we're both. So let us get started. And the reason I'm sitting this way is I may have to read some of it because it came out a little more complicated than I thought it would. Okay, so it starts when 6 sassy mystics walk into a bar, and they sat down and they ordered their drinks, and they sipped their drinks and they looked at each other, and it was around Christmas time, and they basked in the glow of a fire, and they had great affection for one another. The first one, Rumi, his drink that he ordered was called a swirling dervish. I don't know what was in it, but that's what it was called. And he said to the other guys and gals there, he said, you know, all day long I think about it, and then at night I say it. Where did I come from? And what am I supposed to be doing? And the other guy said, I don't know. We don't know what you're supposed to be doing. And Rumi said, well, I do have this poem that I wrote that kind of speaks to what I think we're supposed to be doing here. And actually, I brought in one of my brothers, Brother Hugh Rose, who's going to read this poem to us.
The body is like Mary, and each of us has a Jesus inside. Who is not in labor, holy labor? Every creature is. See the value of true art when the earth, or a soul, is in the mood to create beauty. For the witness might then for a moment know beyond any doubt God is really there within, so innocently drawing life from us with her umbilical universe. Though also needing to be born. Yes, God also needs to be born. Birth from a loving hand's touch. Birth from a song breathing life into this world. The body is like Mary. And each of us has a Christ within.
So after the reading, Brother Rumi paused, and then he said for emphasis, I think it sounds like from that reading that we're here, not only is God here for us, but we're here for God. God draws its life from us, from her umbilical universe. And God needs to be born through us. And yes, the body is like Mary, and each of us has a Christ within us, waiting to be born. Well, the mystics all agreed. They all nodded, and they said, that's really an interesting concept. But then the Buddhist mystic, Pema Chodron, spoke up, and she said, I hear you, Brother Rumi, but what is this Christ business that you're talking about? What does that actually mean? And with that, Ernest Holmes, who was there, Ernest Holmes, who was the founder of this movement, was sitting there, and he went, oh. Like an eager second grader. He raised his hand because he knew the answer to what it means, what this Christ business means. And so the other mystics smiled and said, go ahead, Ernest. And Ernest said, I've been reading this book by Gary Zukav that they've been featuring at the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living for the last month or so. And even though Gary died, even though I died long before Gary was born, I'm still reading his book. I don't know how that works, but I am. And in a chapter called Love, Gary describes the Christ as love. And he describes it as not only this ephemeral idea of love, but this very incarnated essence of love that is in everything. Gary talks about a giant redwood tree and how it simultaneously reaches for the sky and reaches for the ground at the same time. It's in the earth and the sky at the same time. And then after 1,000 years, that redwood might die. And there's a bit of mourning as little birds and animals see that their favorite tree has fallen over. And you think that love story is over, that love story of reaching for the sky and the earth. But the love story, a new phase of it is just beginning. Because as the giant redwood starts to decay, that bacteria eat it and they get to live, and compost is formed and new plants are formed, and even a new giant redwood tree comes from that. So there is this gigantic cycle of interconnectedness. And not only is it taking place in nature, that we are part of nature, and it's taking place in our bodies as well. Gary Zukav wrote, the cells in your body love each other. The cells in your body love each other. Your blood loves your heart and your lungs. Your spine loves your brain. Your body is a love story that continues day after day. And every part of your body gives what the other parts need and receives from them what it needs. You are a walking, talking story of love. Do you know that? You are a walking, talking story of love over there, right? And if Nikolai is a walking, talking story of love, at what age do we stop being a walking, talking story of love? Is it when we're 3? Is it when we're 4? Is it when we're teenagers? Is it when we're 40? No, forevermore. We are a walking, talking story of love. And Ernest said, I think that that's what the Christ is. The Christ is not limited to one person who lived approximately 2,000 years ago. It is the walking, talking story of love that encompasses everything, that is who we are. It's as easy as that, Ernest Holmes said. Well, then Meister Eckhart chimed in. Oh, I forgot to tell you what Ernest Holmes was drinking. Oh, now feel free to interrupt me if I, forget. So, what? Oh, well, we'll get to Pima later. But Ernest was drinking. We have this thing in this church, what we call prayer is spiritual mind treatment, and it's sometimes abbreviated SMT. Ernest Holmes was having an SMT, but it was a spiritual mind toddy. Okay? So Ernest Holmes finished his discussion about the Christ and how easy it is to become the Christ, and Meister Eckhart jumped in and he said, not so fast, Sparky. I got something to tell you. The other mystics laughed as Meister Eckhart took a long sip from his drink. And being a Christian mystic, he was drinking, and this is the real name of a drink. Meister Eckhart was drinking a rusty nail. You get it? You get it? It's a crucifixion joke, people. It's a rusty nail. All right? Okay. Thank you for indulging me. I don't know what's in a rusty nail. You don't, right? What is? Scotch and Drambuie. A rusty nail, Meister Eckhart's favorite. Okay. So anyway, Meister Eckhart went in to say, when someone, even Mary, even the Blessed Virgin Mary has a baby, the lady has to go through labor. The kid just doesn't pop out. Anybody, please make a popping sound so I don't have to. Thank you, thank you. I've gotten rusty. Let me see if I can do it. See, I can't do it anymore. I don't know how to do it anymore. It scares my dog, so I can't practice at home. Okay. So anyway, the kid doesn't just pop out. And Pema Chodron and the rabbi, who is Rabbi Lisa, who is actually working right around the corner from us down the street. Don't tell her I talked about her in church, okay? She's a lovely person, but they nodded knowingly. Yes, the baby does not just pop out, right? Am I right, mothers? Is that correct? Okay, good. Bing! Okay. So there is sometimes labor giving birth with real babies, and there is also labor in giving birth to the Christ child within us. We shouldn't be afraid of labor pains, though, and we should befriend our struggle. That's why I wrote this portion of a sermon, this beautiful portion of a sermon. And wouldn't you know it, but I brought along one of my brothers to read it. My brother, David Kerrigan, is going to read this portion of a sermon. But before David gets up to read, Ernest Holmes jumped in and he said, wait a minute. Are you going to use all of those pronouns that imply that God is a man? I mean, I know I did in my writing, but I hear that's not politically correct anymore. And Rumi laughed and said, it's okay if Brother Meister Eckhart wants to call God a guy or talk about man when we know he means men and women. And Rumi laughed and he jumped in and he said, I can help this out. I can help by quoting my brother Hafiz. Hafiz never wants to offend. So if anything I ever say offends you, you can always feel free to switch the gender in your own mind. Okay, you got that? What a concept, right? We can take responsibility for not being offended. Woohoo! Okay. All right. So with that, Meister Eckhart called Brother David Kerrigan to read a portion of his sermon.
Man has a twofold birth. One into the world and one out of the world, which is spiritual and into God. Do you want to know if your child is born and if he is naked, whether you have in fact become God's son? If you grieve in your heart for anything, even on account of sin, your child is not yet born. If your heart is sore, you are not yet a mother. But you are in labor, and your time is near. So do not despair if you grieve for yourself or your friend. Though it is not yet born, it is near to birth. But the child is fully born when a man's heart grieves for nothing. Then a man has the essence and the nature and the substance and the wisdom and the joy and all that God has. Then the very being of the Son of God is ours and in us, and we attain to the very essence of God.
Thank you. So the mystics were silent for a moment after that, wondering what it all meant, and Rabbi Lisa spoke up and she said, it sounds like God really intends to be joyful through us, that the Son of God is supposed to be joy coming through us. You know, and that's some really pretty good writing, dude, Meister Eckhart, you know, but what exactly do you mean about sin, that we're not even supposed to grieve for sin? And once again, Ernest Holmes was like an eager second grader going, oh, 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 oh. And when the others called on him, he said, sin means error, or it means separation from God, or from love, or from our good. And once again, Rumi chimed in and it said, yes, Brother Hafiz says that our separation from God, from love, is our hardest work in the world. So when we talk about sin, we're not talking about someone being an evil sinner. We're saying that person is just feeling separate from love or separate from good in this particular moment. The mystics nodded at the wisdom of adding a little Sufi spice to Meister Eckhart's wisdom, and then they discussed what he said, that if you grieve even for your perceived sin or separation, you're living in a state of misperception about the nature of reality. And the truth is that you can never be separate from God. And when you know that you can never be separate from God, then you have given birth to the inner Christ child. Every time you know that you can never be separate from God, you are giving birth to the inner Christ child. But take heart. Even if you are in labor, if you're in pain, if you're struggling, if you're suffering, that means that you are in labor, and it means that your time is near. And the way to get through your labor is to not fight it, but to befriend it. To befriend your labor, struggle, despair, doubt, indecision, and you will realize the Christ consciousness, or the perception of oneness, the perception of interconnectivity within you. And each time you witness and befriend, you come one step closer to having the essence, nature, substance, wisdom, and joy of God. There was a deep silence as all of the mystics contemplated the unspeakably beautiful joy of God. And then the bartender, Richard Rohr, a Franciscan mystic, barked, "Can I get anyone a refill? And by the way, how are you going to live with that as if that truth is true?" Rabbi Lisa said, "I think I can help with that." She was engaging in the Jewish tradition of drinking tea in a glass with a sugar cube in her mouth. I don't know if it was Long Island iced tea or not. We will have to ask her next time we see her. And she said, you know, as I'm a rabbi, but I know a story about a rabbi in a monastery that will help us. She said that there was an abbot of a monastery, and he was great friends with this rabbi, and one day they went out to lunch. And they were talking, and the abbot of the monastery was saying, my monastery has fallen into disrepair. It's just a mess in so many ways. The building is falling down, the grounds look terrible, and the food is awful, and nobody's doing their chores, and more than that, the monks are bickering with each other. They're cranky, and they're grumpy, and they're not doing well with each other. And the rabbi said, well, that's really interesting to me, because I heard a rumor that the Messiah is living in your monastery. And the abbot said, really? What? And so he went home to the monastery, and the first person he met was this monk that he couldn't stand, this monk that just worked his last nerve, and he just couldn't stand it. But he said to himself, what if that monk is actually the Messiah, and I don't know it? So he decided to be extra kind to that monk, and he did. And they actually ended up having a conversation, and the monk said, you know, I see that something has changed between us. What is that? And the abbot said, well, I think you might be the Messiah. The monk said, me, really? He said, well, this rabbi told me that somebody living in this monastery is the Messiah. And the cranky monk went, oh, I better start treating everybody nicely. And so he did, and one by one, each of the monks got this message that the Messiah was living amongst them, and they started treating each other like they were the Christ, like they were the son, the offspring of God, the daughters of God, whoever they were, and that they started really treating one another with reverence and respect and kindness. And the monastery started to flourish. It came out of the relationship with the monks. They became so kind to each other that kindness rippled out, and the building was repaired, and the gardens looked beautiful, and they looked for opportunities to serve. And the truth is that they are all the Messiah, just as we are all the Messiah. That we're not waiting for a new avatar, a new single person to lift us up. It's up to us right now to do the lifting up. And we do that by living as if the truth is true and treating each other as if we are the Christ, because we are. Seeing the Messiah, the Christ presence, the never-ending love story in one another, that will help us live as if the truth of our inner Christ presence is true. And then Pema Chodron chimed in. Okay, this drink is a stretch. Buddhists, last time Kusala was here, he was saying that karma was such a key element of the Buddhist teaching, and they believe in karma. So, you've heard of the drink, a Harvey Wallbanger? What's in that? Do you know? Anybody? Okay, Debbie, thank you. Thank you. Galliano and orange juice, okay. So instead of having a Harvey Wallbanger, because what goes around comes around, Pema Chodron had a Harvey Wall Boomeranger, okay? It's a stretch. It's a stretch. Pema said, I practice something similar to what Rabbi Lisa talks about. You know, when I see someone who is distressing to me or annoying, I say, just like me, this person wants to be happy. Just like me, this person wants to be well. Just like me, this person wants to be peaceful and at ease. But I see now that I can extend that, too, to focus on an even more positive, beautiful essence of that person. I can say, just like me, this person has the Christ presence within them. Really, that person that you're thinking about right now, you're saying, not that person has the Christ essence within them. Think of the worst person you know. Don't say the name out loud, but think of the worst person you know. And see if you can just say it. You don't even have to mean it, that this person has the Christ presence within him. If the Christ presence doesn't work, say Buddha presence, say whatever you want. What will work for probably all of us is that this person is part of a never-ending love story, no matter how difficult they might be. So can you imagine greeting your enemies and saying silently, hi, you're part of a never-ending love story, and you are here for me. You are here for me to grow. You are here to grow my love. Thank you so much. You are wonderful. I love you so much for being such a jerk. Maybe leave out that last part. But I do know that if we practice this as much as we can't do it all the time probably, but as much as we can, we'll get better at it. And that is what changes the world. And then there's one more mystic, a mystic that is well known to this church, to some of us. Some of you who are newer may not know him, but he usually comes every year. He just didn't come last year. He's the mystic that I'm going to see when I'm in India, when I'm in 40 days. What was I thinking? Going to India in 40 days? Okay. Anyway, it's Nipun Mehta, who is a Hindu. And he was, of course, drinking a cup of kindness for all lang syne. Because that's what he does. He is a kindness expert guru and more. Kindness mystic. He was also helping Richard Rohr wash the dishes and wipe the tables, by the way, as is his tendency. And Nipun said, you know, you mystics, you are wonderful, you're amazing, you're all absolutely right. And there's one thing that I have to add, and that is to focus on the small. We don't have to take on the whole world at once. We don't have to change our worst habits into the Christ consciousness at once. If everyone just expresses love in the tiniest ways, in their little tiny corner of the world, or in one aspect of their personality that is challenging, then the whole world becomes love. So we said, just pick one thing to do. Just pick one thing to love about yourself. It doesn't have to be the hardest thing to love about yourself. Pick one thing, and then ultimately work your way up to the hardest thing to love about yourself. And then pick one thing in another person that's hard to love about them. Not the hardest thing, but then work your way up to be able to love the most difficult people you know. And turn those acts of that consciousness of love into tiny acts of kindness. Don't tell anyone unless you need to inspire more kindness, but also become vigilant at noticing how the kind acts of others help your life, and then speak of it. Tell them about it. And you'll see that they'll start to glow, and they'll start to come alive. It's like when you're raising a child, and you're criticizing them all the time, you see how they shut down. But if you start praising them, their hearts start to expand, and pretty soon that child is a changed and transformed human being. The same thing is true for all of us children running around in adult bodies. All right, so just to sum it up, why this story? Well, first of all, as I said, it grabbed me in the middle of the night, in the middle of an insomniac moment. And I do like to reinforce that we truly are an interfaith center, a spiritual center. You know, we're covered with Christmas decorations. You may notice that there's an altar scene on the, a manger scene on the altar. Granted, it's all dogs, and baby Jesus is being played by a basset hound, you know. Brings new meaning to the song, Mary, Did You Know? That your basset hound would like to bay at kitties, I don't know. Anyway, but we do truly bless all paths to God, and we recognize that there are many lenses through which we see the spiritual truth, and that's a beautiful thing. We shouldn't all be the same. And so we try and bring as much of that all paths to God and that insight into here, into this church as we can. But mostly the reason for this talk is to help us have a good talk, have a good life, have a really good life, have a super life, because you are you, because you are the divine Christ that has been born into the world. You are that Christ consciousness, which is a never-ending love story. You get to have that. You really do. You really get to have a never-ending love story where you love yourself so much that you can't even stand it, that you love others so much that you can't even stand them. That came out really wrong, but you know what I mean. And that you love life so much that it is so incredibly beautiful that you just, you become a distraction because you just want to bow down and kiss the feet of everything, okay? So that love is available for you. Everything you do, say, touch, feel, everything you are serves this purpose. That love is absolute, and it's manifested by unavoidable, infinite connectivity and oneness. Sometimes it takes a little bit of labor to release this love. Mary struggled when she gave birth to Jesus, and we struggle sometimes as we give birth to divine, but we embrace the struggle. We don't resist it. You know, and just as a child is born, when a child is conceived, and the child starts out as a zygote, and then it's an embryo, and then it's a fetus, and then it's a baby, you know, let's say you're in the embryonic phase, and you're not saying to the child, dang it, you're still an embryo, right? You don't say that. Am I correct? Right? You don't say that. Okay? It's the same thing. If we're feeling despair or doubt or confusion or fear, that is just the embryonic stage of something greater that is waiting to happen through us. So try not to despair over your despair. Try not to resist your resistance. Try not to distrust your doubt. Try not to judge your judgment. Just see it and befriend it and recognize it for what it is. It is an embryo, and soon it will grow into that baby. And before too long, as you give it the right nourishment and the right support, it will be birthed into the Christ child in your life. The Christ child being that never-ending love story. And you find that with your kindness and living it and supporting it and being it. So with this in heart and mind, we live as if the truth is true. We see the Christ in everyone. We see the Christ in people's strengths and their weaknesses and their joys and their sorrows. We become the Christ we already are with small acts of goodness and recognition of the goodness of others. And then back to those mystics who are still sitting in the bar drinking away. That's who we are, and that's what we're supposed to do here. Not drink in a bar, by the way. That came out wrong, too. With the end of this story, Richard Rohr came up to them again and he bellowed, "Last call, boys and girls." And the mystics finished their drinks, and they assigned Rabbi Lisa to be the designated driver because she was just drinking tea in a glass. And they all hugged one another with deep affection, and knowing that they were more alike than they ever imagined, they got on their camels and their cars and such, and they went home. They went home to where they live indeed, but also they went home to the home that we all share. It was a renewed connection with all of us, because all of us are indeed at home in the heart of holiness, the Christ awareness. And as such, we moment by moment give birth to a never-ending love story as we live like that truth is true. Let's do that now, and let us pray. And so I turn within and just acknowledge the power and the presence of the Most High, the One, that beautiful being that is the Christ consciousness, the goodness, the peace, the presence, the love, the absolute reality. All that is who I am. And as I know that for myself, I know it also for every single person sitting in this sanctuary and every person that we hold in our hearts, every being in the world and beyond. And so I unify with that beautiful source. I unify and call it my own. And as I speak in the first person, know that I am using the universal I am that addresses all of us, because truly there is only one I am, and that is the life of God manifesting in human form through us. Spirit becoming matter so that matter may become spirit. And so I know that I am abundant, I am pure, I am holy, I am blessed, I am grateful, I am surrendered, I am healthy, I am happy, I am all of the things that the Christ consciousness is. I am whole, I am perfect, I am inclusive, I am complete. I am filled with grace, I am filled with graciousness. I find it easy to love others. I find it easy to love myself. My life unfolds serenely. Something wonderful is happening to me today and every day. And I give thanks for all of that, because it is all true of the truth of who we are. And so with gratitude, I do give thanks. I give thanks for this transformation that is occurring through us, through our spiritual center, through our world. I give thanks for the labor pains, knowing that something wonderful is being birthed through our consciousness and through our bodies and through our physical existence here on earth, not only for us as individuals, but for us collectively in this center and beyond, in the whole world. And I give thanks for the power and the presence of the living God that lives and moves and has its perfect being through everything that we think, say, and do. I give thanks for our growing awareness of that and for the transformation that occurs because of that. I bless all paths to God, churches, synagogues, temples, mosques, ashrams. I bless all paths. And with a heart that is so filled with blessedness, I say, thank you, Spirit, thank you, God. And I release these words into the divine mystery, and together we say, and so it is. I am so